So I just established that Schopenhauer's view is that we should avoid the pressures of the world by moving into a pessimistic, meaningless life. And that's how you find freedom and like virtue um, and like um, the original energy, the will. Um, but that actually is a limited paradigm because it doesn't escape human illusions. Because the human paradigm is that uh, the opposite of meaningful is meaningless. And so saying that reality is meaningless is just as human as saying that it's meaningful. Whatever is reality in a non-human way is something that is different from either of those. Now, human reality is a product of whatever reality is outside of us. And so there's some validity there, and that's probably why we can do things intentionally and predict things. But there is a limited amount to which that works. And so understanding that we have a valid and meaningful human reality, but that the human reality, the meaningfulness of it and the meaninglessness of it are also human. Then you learn to appreciate both ends, and it's terrifying to think of something that is neither meaningful nor meaningless. It's entirely unapprehendable, and that's just the very point of Buddhism, is to wake up to that and to see that there is a human life that we're living, and so live it, and act in the world, and just acknowledge that those things are connected. And that's the very point of the Heart Sutra. It's sort of touched on in the Diamond Sutra. It's a little more elusive. The Heart Sutra has a little bit more focus to it. Thich Nhat Hanh actually made a very good newer translation recently that speaks to this for Westerners, because oftentimes when Buddhism teaches of like nirvana or like the cessation from being, it makes it seem like everything that is real is somehow wrong or dirty, or like you should avoid it. And that is a temptation for many Buddhists that you can kind of pick up on. Just as Christians tend to be controlling, maybe Buddhists tend to be pessimists. So he introduced a new phrase, which is very true to the rest of it, and I think it's just getting more at the essence of what it means. I'll just read a little bit. I really recommend that you look it up. Thich Nhat Hanh's translation of the Heart Sutra. They have a great explanation of why he changed the translation. The Heart Sutra is also known as the insight that brings us to the other shore. It ends on the very famous mantra, Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha, which the idea is that the path to enlightenment is like being a boat going across a river, and Gate is, I think, the Sanskrit word for gone over, crossed over. So Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate is like gone across, like totally gone across, and then like everything is crossed, everything possible, and then like awake, so be it, which is Bodhisvaha, like awakened, let it be so, sort of an amen. I'll read a little bit. So the Buddha says, this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. Their true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. That is why in emptiness, bodiness, or body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are not separate self-entities. Everything, and he goes on, he just basically is like saying all the sense organs, all the objects of senses, all the types of consciousnesses, they're not separate self-entities. Everything the reasons for everything arising and going extinct, disappearing, they're not separate self-entities. Ill-being, the causes of ill-being, the end of ill-being, the path, insight, and attainment are also not separate self-entities. So he's saying that like saintlyhood and depravity are connected in a paradigm. Like, you are not separate. And then whoever can see this no longer needs anything to attain. That's the point. You're not a cross. There's nothing to cross. So this idea of you've gone away from crossed over one, you've crossed over twice, you've totally crossed over, and then you've crossed over in every possible way. That's what tathagata means. It's like you've gone away from having a lot of expectations, and then you've gone away from pessimism, so having a lot of negative, like the negation of pessimism. Then you go past that paradigm altogether, and then you go across that in every paradigm. You see that everything is like that, and that right where you are is perfectly fine. That's what it means to be awakened. It's not like that you've become like this crazy Buddha or whatever. It's like, maybe you can go do stuff forever, but like it's really like right here. You grasp it, but you have to know it for yourself. You can't just think it in a conceptual way. You gotta know it from examples and test it for yourself. So I think that's why Schopenhauer is kind of deeply wrong, because for him the will is an irrational thing, and like I'll agree that the will is irrational, but I'll also say that it's not irrational. It is totally other. I mean, for all I know, it could be exactly as the way the reality seems, or it could be totally different and everything's an illusion. Really, what it is that even my paradigms of understanding what's beyond human are human. So, like, I should just live into the reality that I'm a part of and acknowledge that my existence and everything that I experience is, like, connected. And when you understand that, like, in your own consciousness, in a general way that applies to everything, like, when you see it in general, like, when you see it in specific areas, and then you start to, like, extrapolate, and then, like, bloom it all out in every possible way. It's like something clicks, and you just, like, yep. It's no longer like that everybody's opposite. It's like you kind of see like right where you're at, and like everybody's connected, and like and different. It's not like saying that everything's equal. It's just to say that there's kind of an outward reality where everything is different, and there's an inward reality where everything's equal. And, like, those things are both valid, and it's you kind of have to let words stretch to really get that. It's more of something that you know for yourself. You can see it by the way that it changes your actions and your perceptions. It's like when you kind of reach that point where you're like, oh, I don't have anything else to attain, and you just kind of like accept your lot in life and the struggles that you have. Like that's enlightenment. That's simple. And like sure, like have all the lamas and all the teachers and all the rituals of Buddhism and stuff. It's all nice, the bells and the ringing stuff and the sitting and being quiet and wearing orange and like all these things are valuable, but like and same thing for like Christianity. There's a really strong case for this also existing in Christianity. Paul's apostle has realizations where he's like, oh, no slave, no free, no male, no female, like no rich, no poor, like there's no difference, no Gentile, no Jew, there's no difference, like that realization and the Spirit awakening him. It's the same thing. It's just different form, different language, different reality, of course, that goes along with that understanding. But I just wanted to point out that Schopenhauer is kind of deeply wrong. He's also far more right than a lot of people are willing to go. A lot of people are not willing to look at reality straight in the face and question the entire thing, and do it very rigorously and with a lot of sensitivity to art and spirituality. So I totally commend Schopenhauer for that, but reality is neither meaningful